Now, let's go ahead and see how this would work. Let's insert some answers for this. Now, we made this a div class of row, so in material design, or in materialized CSS, we can grab a card, and we can, let's just take this basic card here, and let's replace everything inside this keys with our card. And by doing that, we can now insert information inside a card. I'm actually going to get rid of everything in the explanation. And this span that says card title, I'm going to replace with the part that says restaurant key. So I'm going to take this, replace it with the restaurant key so that we get the title of each card being the name of the restaurant. And I'm going to replace both of these A tags with a button. A button with a class equals BTN. And then I'm just going to make sure both of those buttons are ended. And this one's going to say upvote. And this one's going to say downvote. ¿Por qué no los dos? Agreed. You can just downvote both. No, I don't want to do that. That's not very nice. So, and then also, just to make sure they both take up half, I'm going to say S6, M6, L6. So on every screen, they take up half their container. Now, once I do that, I said we wanted to get the icons in there too. Let's go grab the icon link right here. And let's insert it at the very top of our home.ejs, right underneath our style.css. And that should allow us to put material icons in there as well, which is fun. Icons are fun. Just everyone likes icons. And so right after the upvote, let's look at how icons are done. You just say something like iClass equals material icons, and then inside there, you put the name of whatever icon you want it to be. So if I do this, and I refresh my page, it should now, hopefully, if it decides to work, cool. Now, it still says plus on both. Let's make the downvote one minus, or it might be subtract. I don't know. We're going to find out in a second. Minus, refresh, and no, that's not it. It's subtract, is that it? I have no idea. That's, okay, add. Ooh, I like add circle outline. That one looks way cooler. Let's see. Oh, there's an arrow down. Arrow downward. That looks better. Let's just do arrow downward. And now once this is done, I have a plus and a down. And that's really all we actually need for the time being. Upvote and downvote. Like, yeah, we could make this better, but all things considered, like, this is pretty solid. And then just like a nice little profile of me, just let it remind me who I am. Hey, that's me. I know who I am. Cool. So the last thing we need to do is we need to wire up some functions to the upvote and to the downvote so that each of these cards also has a bunch of votes on it. Now to do this, we're actually going to have to change the way our data is structured. So let's start thinking about that for a second, and then let's do it. Inside our database here, notice how every key here only has the name of the restaurant. Does it have the number of upvotes or a place to put those upvotes? No. That's a problem, huh? So what should we change these to instead? How could we structure this data a little bit better? Well, we could make each of them objects, sure, and then what would each of those objects have? Maybe a name, and then a upvotes, and a downvotes key. We could just have votes and then make it upper. Yeah, that's a cool way to do it. We could just do votes and then say add one every time someone votes for it, and yeah. It's a good point. It's an interesting way to look at it. So we can do upvotes or downvotes, and then let's store the ID of the user every time we upvote or downvote. How does that sound? Just so that people can't upvote or downvote more than once. Wouldn't that make sense? Because then otherwise, Daryl could go in there and just upvote a million times, and that would be unfair. Then we give too much power to Daryl, you know? No, you're right. That's definitely true. I mean, everyone still has an equal number of power as long as you can click as fast as the next person. Sure, I don't disagree with you there. But the idea here is that we want to make this a little more even. So let's go ahead and figure out how we would do that. The first thing we need to change is inside the Firebase voting. Instead of just pushing the restaurant name, let's push a object. And that object is going to have a key called name that stores the restaurant name. A key that says upvoters, and it's going to be an object, an empty object, and downvoters, which has an empty object. Now the problem is, watch what happens when we do this. Because this would make sense, except that once we start doing it this way, what's going to happen when we have empty objects here? Will Firebase recognize that? Well, let's find out. Let's go ahead and refresh this. And let's add another one in there. So another restaurant might be Pizza Mercado, my favorite place. Go there literally every day. Cool, but look at this for a second. It says object here now. And that's because we have to change our code a little bit, because now when we update each of these keys, it stores an object. The name is Pizza Mercado. Now notice how it didn't store anything else except for the name. Uh-oh. That's because when we store empty objects like this, it won't work. You see that? Unfortunate, huh? So how do we do it? Well, we could just, for now, I think the easiest way to do it is to go with Mehrab's idea, which is to say votes. Or I think that was Noel's idea. Just to say votes. Your idea is the first way. Yeah, so you got to think about how the data is going to be structured. And then we can start to update this a little bit and set the votes equal to 0. But then that also means, what else do we need to change? We need to change our EJS tags, yeah. Inside the home, instead of saying restaurants key, we need to see restaurants key dot what? Name. And then here, we need to have, let's do another one, paragraph tag, and we'll say votes, and then we'll put in those little tags, and we'll say restaurants key dot votes. Cool?
That's a new one.
This is a new one right below the restaurant's key. Because remember, we're printing out the name of the restaurant by using restaurant's key. But now we've changed the way our data is structured so that the object has a name key instead of just the key itself. And so we're accessing the dot name here and then the dot votes. And so I'm actually going to get rid of a ton of this. I'm going to get rid of this one. And I'm going to add another Pizza Mercado, and we're going to see what it looks like after I save this. Okay, refresh. Now notice how that object one went away. Good. And notice how all the cards are now missing the restaurant title. But if I put Pizza Mercato in there, submit, and I go down, it'll say Pizza Mercado votes 0. And that's technically what we want, right? So now we can start to figure out who's getting voted for. But that also means we need to go in and change all of these and just get rid of them. Because I don't feel like updating them. We can go in and update them ourselves, but that's work, and I'd rather just not do it. So we're getting super close, aren't we? Because we are no longer iterating over the list of keys to get just the value, because the value is now an object. Now each of those values is no longer a name, it's an object containing the key name and the key votes. So you have to change the way you do it. And this is actually one of the biggest issues with developing things like this, is that you do a bunch of stuff, then you have to go back and make corrections. So we're going to fix this up in a minute, but for now I think it's starting to look pretty good. We'll go ahead and add the rest of those restaurants right now.